Yeah, they started bullying the referee, the Mali players.
The champions of Africa, Cote d'Ivoire.
The 2023 AFCON did not disappoint. Anyone who wasn't paying attention, you really were missing out. The amount of ridiculousness and chaos that comes out of this competition is truly incredible. But we've come to expect that over the years. The value for entertainment is always there. This is the only competition where a team that loses 2 matches in the group stages and then fires their manager in the middle of the tournament can go on to win the whole thing. Full of upsets, full of questionable moments, and full of quality. All 8 quarterfinalists from last time were eliminated before this year's final 8 was even solidified. Not only that, but every African team that qualified for the 2022 World Cup was knocked out in the round of 16. The unpredictability here was insane.
But that's the beauty of the AFCON. Anybody can be beaten.
There's always a bit of a lull when it comes to promotion of AFCON outside of Africa, which is a massive shame. Jurgen Klopp's infamous comments from 2021 have come back to haunt him several times over and have left a lasting effect.
But in January is a little tournament in Africa, I just want to say, and I think Asia is playing games as well, if my numbers are right.
Now, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt here and say that he didn't intend for it to be interpreted that way. Having 2 of the best players in your team and on the planet leave for all of January isn't ideal in the Premier League. Plus, I don't even know if English is his second or third or whatever language really. Even still, a poor choice of words. The Ivory Coast lifted the trophy on home soil when it was all said and done. Congratulations to them. They really deserve it. The Didier Drogba cam was going crazy as soon as that equalizer hit. But Nigeria made them work for it. It was a wild ride, and I'm here to talk about it. Yo, what's going on everyone? Hope we're all doing well. I'm Tinashe, welcome back to the channel. AFCON started off with vibes, and it ended with vibes. I'm gonna miss some of the big details here, so I'm gonna need you guys to help me out a little bit in the comments. Before the tournament began, Opta released their numbers for which nation was most likely to win AFCON this time around. At the very top, they had Senegal, which makes sense. They were the reigning champions, of course. Sadio Mane at the tip of the spear, Ismail Assar, and Kalidou Koulibaly form just a select bunch of players that make up this powerhouse of a nation. But they weren't powerful to get past the round of 16. Egypt were truly terrible. They played horrifically against the Congo and I would say deserved to be knocked out. It's been a rough decade for the Egyptians. Record AFCON winners with 7 overall, 2 more than second place Cameroon, and the only team to ever win 3 AFCONs in a row, 2006, 2008, and 2010. Yet, since 2010, they failed to qualify 3 times and have been met with bitter disappointment ever since. A real shame. Cape Verde, on the other hand, were a real surprise package. And no, I'm not referring to all the down bad guys on Twitter talking about how the next AFCON needs to be held in Cape Verde. Although, CAF, if you're watching this, I mean, why not? Not only did they top a group with both Ghana and Egypt, but they did so in style and showed really great value for their performances. The weight of a nation fell on Bebe, and he delivered with the beauty of a free kick. But not much else. Cameroon won in 2017, but haven't been able to get back to the finals since. Andre Onana, who was the Cameroonian FA and Samuel Eto'o's biggest enemy over the last year or so, has had a renewed interest in the squad. He infamously walked out in Cameroon after he had a disagreement with the Cameroon national team manager during the 2022 World Cup over tactics. He left the camp and announced his retirement from international football at the age of 26. He did come back a year later and reconciled with the manager, but the drama didn't end there. He was with Manchester United before the tournament and had to rush to make Cameroon's opening game against Guinea. He did not make it in time, and Cameroon did not make it out of the round of 16. I'll tell you who did though. South Africa had a glance at that 2017 result and liked what they saw, which is why they enlisted the coach of their 2017 winning side, Hugo Broos. And my God, did this man cook. From only qualifying once in the past 3 tournaments to making it to the semi-finals this time around is truly special. Broos took over as the head coach in May of 2021, has managed 30 games and only lost 6 of them. The way he shored up the defense has been great to watch. Aubrey Modiba, Motobi Mvala and Kuliso Mudau were especially on their A game here. Percy Tau was always expected to show up for SA. I think he was alright. He could have done more at times for me. Can't really complain really. Teboho Mokoena will be in Morocco's nightmares for years to come, but he's just chilling. Here's proof. As someone who's watched Bafana Bafana underperform for years now, this was a pretty pleasant thing to see. And I'm not really sure how Rowan Williams walks around with balls of steel like that. Pause. During the penalty shootout versus Cape Verde, this man stopped 4 penalties. We're not going to talk about how he saved 4 penalties, but still had to go between the sticks for a 5th. That's not important. Honestly, at this point, this man can probably save the South African economy. I know who I'm voting for. Another thing about South Africa's trip to the semi-finals that I don't know how many people are talking about is that they did it with mostly local players. Now, I'm going to tell you some stats here that might blow your mind. Bafana Bafana's squad had 20 players that play in the PSL, the South African Premier Soccer League, and only 3 that play abroad. Get this, every single one of the other teams that made it to the semi-finals only had 1 player in their 23-man squad that played in the local league. Believe it, it's true. It's been a crazy time for South African sports lately, and I'm all here for it. Banyana win the Women's AFCON in 2022. SA becomes the greatest rugby nation to ever exist in 2023. Light work, the semi-final appearance in the Cricket World Cup, my guy Drickus doing his thing. Now this semi-final appearance that very easily could have been a final appearance. I'll settle for 3rd place, I guess. Mali were in fine form and were a lot of people's dark horse throughout the tournament. And I would personally say that they were the better team against the Ivory Coast in the quarterfinals too. An out-of-this-world strike by Nene Dojelis was unfortunately cancelled out by 2 goals by the Ivorians very, very late on. A 90th minute equalizer and a 122nd minute winner. It's nightmare fuel for any losing side. On to the finalists. Nigeria and the Ivory Coast. On paper, it makes sense that the final would be competed between these 2 great teams, but it does kind of ignore the storyline and what actually happened. Now sure, the best players in the world often come from these 2 countries, but I think we're all forgetting that AFCON is a vibes-only competition. It's written, it's law at this point.
Anybody can be beaten.
Not only did Nigeria finish 2nd in their group to Equatorial Guinea, but Ivory Coast were in the same group as them and finished 3rd. The storylines that this tournament had were unbelievable. Nigeria came into AFCON having topped their qualification group by 2 points, a near perfect record, sullied by a single loss to the team in 2nd place, Guinea-Bissau. They may not have had a perfect record, in fact, nobody did, but they outscored more than anybody else in the entire qualification period, like by a lot. 22 goals in the qualifiers over 6 games. Sounds like something that comes straight out of FIFA, although it's probably worth noting that this tally is largely inflated by just 2 games, both of them against Sao Tome Principe. Nigeria scored 16 goals against these guys in 2 matches. How is that even possible? Cologne haven't even scored that many goals after 21 games in the Bundesliga. Guys, I'm sorry you're catching strays here. They had to go somewhere. I needed to compare it to something. Victor Osimhen was, of course, the main culprit here, scoring 10 in the qualifiers. This coincided with the greatest season of his career thus far, the 2023 African Footballer of the Year, Serie A Footballer of the Year, Serie A Striker of the Year, and Serie A winner was going to be a real problem in this tournament. He was a problem in the tournament, but not really when it comes to the score sheet. He only scored 1 goal in the tournament and didn't score at all in the knockouts. Ademola Lookman and William Troost-Ekong carried the bulk of the scoring with 3 apiece, and the rest of the entire squad played support to great effect. The group stages were good enough for them. They made it through, finishing 2nd, with Equatorial Guinea finishing on top of them, but they had the same amount of points. However, they weren't really that convincing. They only scored 1 goal in every single one of their group stage matches, and when it came to the knockouts, it wasn't really all that much better. They went past Cameroon and Angola, sure, but they never once showed the form that got them to AFCON in the first place, in my opinion. And then they came up against South Africa. It really could have gone either way here. Both teams had great chances throughout. After 67 minutes, Osimhen went down in the penalty area, which led to them taking the lead. And this next bit pretty much shows you what AFCON is all about. Nigeria scores 2nd in the 84th minute, and it looks like it's game over, only for the ref to bring the ball back for a foul on the other end of the pitch in the build-up to that goal and call a penalty. Teboho Mokoena equalizes for SA in the 90th minute, and then Mudau skies a chance to win the game in the 96th minute of normal time. Nigeria win on penalties. I'm not mad. The Ivory Coast had a completely different route to the finals. They were the host nation, yes, but belief in this team was pretty low pretty much throughout. Qualification went fine, no stresses here. Qualification went fine, nothing glaring to talk about, nothing sensational at all, they just got through okay. The opening game was fine as well, a 2-0 win, but after that, pretty much everything began to fall apart. Beaten by Nigeria by 1-0, and then by Equatorial Guinea by 4-0, peak embarrassment. Shout out to Emilio Nsu for winning the Golden Boot with 5 goals, 2 against Cote d'Ivoire. I can only imagine what was going on behind closed doors after this match. However, what I do know is that the Ivorian FA was not happy. Jean-Louis Gasset was fired after losing back-to-back matches in the group stages, leaving them in 3rd place. And without a manager. Despite this, by the grace of God, somehow Ivory Coast qualified for the knockouts as the 4th best 3rd place team. Bruh, look at this table. History better remember how close this team was to ultimate collapse. Assistant coach MS Fai took over as the head coach for the remainder of the tournament in what was expected to be a short stint. However, surprise surprise, results greatly improved after that. They still had to work hard for it though. Senegal, the favorites, scored first, but the Ivorians came back. Mali, many neutrals' team of choice, scored first, but the Ivorians came back. This game was one of the games of the tournament, by the way. Simon Adingra and Seko Fofana were just unreal, and in the semi-finals, DRC did not have enough. The last time Cote d'Ivoire made a final was 2015. The last time Cote d'Ivoire won AFCON was 2015. The last time Nigeria made a final was 2013. The last time Nigeria won AFCON was 2013. Everything was set up perfectly. I think to a lot of people, Nigeria were the favorites to come out on top here, but I think a lot of that is due to the fact that the Ivory Coast were on some crazy trip. I think a lot of people were expecting them to just trip and fall at some point. But the Elephants took the game to Nigeria and were definitely the team that was pushing the most early on. Nigeria definitely came to play knockout football because they weren't pressing too hard, they weren't taking many risks. And this paid off when the Super Eagles scored the first goal of the match off a corner. Drogba was not happy. And I know every cameraman was instructed to let us know that at all times. But like I said, the Elephants were dominating all game. So it was no surprise when Frank Kessier brought it back level. Sebastian Haller tried the extraordinary to give his team the edge before actually doing it in great fashion. It's been almost a week and I don't think this goal is given enough credit. The technique and reaction time here is incredible. The Didier Drogba cam was going crazy. The MS Fire cam was going crazy. The Ivory Coast became the first team since Egypt to win an AFCON on home soil. Congratulations to them, and what a tournament it was. A really special mention has to go to Sebastian Haller. This man was diagnosed with testicular cancer in July of 2022, went through 2 surgeries and 4 cycles of chemotherapy, and was thankfully back up and running in early 2023. Fast forward to 2024, and the man is an African champion. These are the stories that this is all about. That's the 2023 AFCON in a nutshell. A tournament where reputation counts for nothing, where everyone's out to have a good time, and where
Anybody can be beaten.
never change AFCON, never change. And there we have it. Let me know what you guys think about AFCON this time around. It was a crazy journey, as it always is. Feel free to leave all your thoughts in the comments below. Feel free to subscribe. Feel free to follow the socials. That's all for me today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you're having a great day. Cheers, and I will catch you in the next one.